My mentor, Rabbi David Posner of blessed memory, used to say that a prayer without a melody is like a body without a soul. The nigun, then, the wordless melody, must be pure soul that brings us into a spiritual realm. And so we begin tonight with this, with the High Holy Day nigun. Purim is exactly half a year away. And Purim is usually our holiday for masks. Alas, these days require that we mask even on Yom Kippur, Purim's spiritual opposite. Please make sure to wear your mask completely covering your mouth and your nose. Also, when the time comes for your participation with reading, chanting, or singing, please do so quietly to ensure that your mask is as effective as possible. And if you are at home and lucky enough to be maskless, you need not be bookless. You can go to the temple's website and click the link on the top right and get a link to the prayer book. We renovated this sanctuary this summer, a long overdue facelift to bring this sacred space closer to its full potential. New seating in which to position our bodies, new carpeting on which to walk, and new light to show us the way. Tonight, we begin to renovate ourselves. We take new positions on things that matter. We walk new pathways towards kindness and compassion. We seek inspiration, old and new, to show us the way. Thus will we approach our full potential, our full humanity. We continue with our candle lighting on page 9. Page 15. Kol Nidre, a chant that begins in a whisper and rises to a cry. On this night of promises remembered, each soul in solitude communes with the soul of the universe. Together, God, from this day of atonement to the next, may we reach it in peace. All Israel makes these vows, to turn from wrong, dishonesty, and greed, to walk in the path of justice and right. Yet we know our weakness, how prone we are to fail. Help us to keep our word. Help us to act with humility and integrity. We seek pardon and forgiveness. We seek your radiance and light. Page 16.
Ooh.
With one voice, assembled sages past and present declare, all may pray as one this night of repentance. Let none be excluded from our community of prayer. With one voice, God and congregation proclaim, may all pray as one on this day of return. Let all find a place in this sacred assembly. Page 18, Kol Nidre. read together. All vows, resolves, and commitments, vows of abstinence and terms of obligation, sworn promises and oaths of dedication, that we promise and swear to God and take upon ourselves from this day of atonement until next day of atonement, may it find us well. We regret them, and for all of them we repent. Let all of them be discarded and forgiven, abolished and undone. They are not valid and they are not binding. Our vows shall not be vows, our resolves shall not be resolves, and our oaths shall not be oaths. Page 20. All shall be forgiven, the entire community of Israel and the stranger who lives in their midst, for all have gone astray in error. Moses prayed to God, "You have been faithful to this people ever since Egypt. Please forgive their failings now, in keeping with your boundless love." V'shamne Amar, Vayomer Adonai Salachti Kidvarecha, and God responded, "I forgive as you have asked." Page 22, Baruch. Page 24, we read together. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your great name fills the universe with majestic might. Your word creates twilight and dusk, as your wisdom opened the gates of night. Your discernment separates the changing seasons and causes the passage of time. The stars arrayed across the sky reveal your design. You roll out the cycle of darkness and light, shaping day and night. You sweep away day and carry the world into nightfall, setting day apart from nighttime. You are God of all we can perceive and all that is beyond our perception. Living eternal God, be our sovereign to the end of time. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, creator of twilight and dusk. Page 26. Haftah Olam, love beyond all space and time. Your love enfolds your people, Yisrael. We receive it in your teaching, your gift of Torah, sacred obligations, discipline, and law. So let us speak these teachings when we lie down and rise up, and find joy forever in your Torah and mitzvot. They are the very essence of our life, ours to ponder and study all our days. May we never lose or be unworthy of your love. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, for you are blessed, the one who loves your people, Yisrael. Shema, page 28.
Adonai Elohim
Ve'ahavta, pages 30 and 32. You may be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
32.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Together in the English, beginning on page 30. You shall love Adonai your God with all your mind, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be a symbol before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. Thus you will become holy to your God. I, Adonai, am your God, who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. I, Adonai, your God. The top of page 33. Throughout the year, our actions condemn us. Throughout the year, our deeds are open to blame, but on this day, we rise above our human failings. Fasting, praying, wrapped in white talitot, we stand like angels, reaching for the divine. On this one day, we catch a glimpse of what could be. We celebrate the better angels of our nature. Page 40, Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ha'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nodat elot osef eleh.
מלכותך ראו בניך בוקר לפני משה ומרים ואלי אנו ויאמרו אדוני ונאמר כיפדו אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 43. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Baruch atah Adonai aparei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Blessed One, you spread over us a canopy of peace, a shelter of shalom over all Israel, your people, and over Jerusalem. Page 46, we read together. Have mercy upon me, O God, as befits your faithfulness. In keeping with your abundant compassion, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly of my iniquity and purify me of sin. For I recognize my transgressions and am ever conscious of my sin. Adonai sfatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open our lips, that our mouths may declare your praise. Page 48, Avot v'Imahot, please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El Hagadol Hagibor Vanora, El Elyon, Kom El Chasadim Tovim, Bekonei Hakol, Bezocher Chazdei Avot Bimot, Umevi Gula Livnei Vnehem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava.
Page 50, we read together in English. You may be seated. Your life-giving power is forever, Adonai, with us in life and in death. You liberate and save, cause dew to descend, and with mercy abundant, lovingly nurture all life. From life to death, you are the force that flows without end. You support the falling, heal the sick, free the imprisoned and confined, You are faithful even to those who rest in the dust. Power beyond power, from whom salvation springs, sovereign over life and death, who is like you? Merciful God, who compares with you? With tender compassion, you remember all creatures for life. Faithful and true, worthy of our trust, you sustain our immortal yearnings. In you we place our undying hopes. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol, wellspring of blessing, power eternal. You are the one who gives and renews all life. Page 53 at the top of the page. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kedashim b'chol yom yihalucha selah. You are holy. Your name is holy. Seekers of holiness praise you. Day by day, Selah. Together at the bottom of the page. And so, in your holiness, give all creation the gift of awe. Turn our fear to reverence. Let us be witnesses of wonder, perceiving all nature as a prayer come alive. We bow to the sovereignty of your strength, the primacy of your power. We yearn for connection with all that lives, doing your will with wholeness of heart. Awe-inspiring is your creation, all-encompassing your transcendent name. Page 54. And so in your holiness, give your people the gift of honor. Bless with praise those who praise you. Bless with hope those who seek you. Give your believers a basis for faith, true happiness for the land of Israel, true joy in Jerusalem. May the sparks of David, your servant, soon grow bright enough for us to see, a beam of light in the darkness, a promise of perfection. Page 56, we read together. And so in your holiness, give the righteous the gift of a vision bright with joy, a world where evil has no voice, and the rule of malevolence fades like wisps of smoke. Good people everywhere will celebrate the stunning sight of arrogance gone from the earth. Page 61 at the bottom of the page. Today, the Jewish mission is not diminished. In a world that still cries out for healing, where suffering and narrowness are endemic, to be chosen means to have a special calling, to teach that all human beings are children of God, created in God's image and must be treated as sacred. That Judaism is a small nation is no bar to this task. Many of the nations that have changed the world have been small. The Athens of Socrates and Plato, the England of Queen Elizabeth and Shakespeare, the America of Washington and Jefferson. No nation, great or small, has touched humanity more deeply than the tiny nation of Isaiah and Jeremiah. Chosenness is not a privilege to boast of, but a task to be undertaken. It is to keep constantly in mind the words of the prophet Micah. It has been told you, O mortal, what is good, and what the Eternal requires of you, only this, to do justly and love mercy and walk humbly with your God. Page 71, we read responsively. A sense of, on this night of atonement, grant us, God, a sense of your presence as we call upon your name. Purify and strengthen our noble strivings, and cleanse us of all our unworthy desires.
Join us together in fellowship and in love. Grant us the joy which comes from enriching other lives.
Help us to be loyal to the heritage we share. Draw us near to Torah in wisdom and in faith.
Strengthen our devotion to our people everywhere. Keep alive our faith in righteousness and truth.
Bless us with hopes to uplift our daily lives, and keep steadfast our courage and our resolve at all times.
On this night of atonement, help us, God, to be worthy of your presence as we call upon your name.
We continue silently. You may use the words on page 79 and 80, or offer the prayers of your heart. Of all the astounding things about our High Holy Day worship, the communal nature of our confession stands as particularly powerful. We claim every admission of wrongdoing as one community. We have sinned. We have stolen. We have cheated. Even those of us who have not done a particular thing say it nevertheless. This allows two things. First, it allows those of us who have committed various wrongs to admit them without being shamed in front of others. Second, it acknowledges the responsibility that we have for one another, that our individual actions, good and bad, impact everyone in the community. Our confession, page 82. Please rise. Together, God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence, and when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. Responsively, of these wrong things we are guilty.
We scorn, we act perversely.
We are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander.
We devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey.
We abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes.
We're hostile, we're stubborn, we're immoral, we kill.
We spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. Page 84 at the bottom, please be seated. You know the secrets of the universe and the secrets of the human heart. You know and understand us, for you examine our inner lives. Nothing is concealed from you, nothing hidden from your sight. Eternal One, our God and God of our ancestors, we pray that this will be your will. Forgive all of our wrongs. Pardon us for every act of injustice. Help us atone for all our moral failures. Page 86. For each stanza, I will read Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha, and we will take turns reading the English. The congregational portion will be led by Cantor Stone. Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and the harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths.
Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech.
Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor.
Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and the harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers.
Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, the harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor.
Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business.
V'al kulam Elohas salichot, salach lanu, machal lanu, kaper lanu. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. We continue on 88. Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and the harm we have caused in your world by losing self-control.
Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, harm we've caused in your world through consumption of food and drink.
Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through greed and exploitation.
Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through cynicism and scorn, and harm we've caused in your world through arrogant behavior.
Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech.
Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you with a slanderous tongue, and harm we've caused in your world through a selfish or petty spirit.
Ve'al kulam Elohas salichot, salach lanu, machal lanu, kaper lanu. For all of these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Page 91, we continue with a silent confession with the words in the book or the words in your heart. Page 93.
God, our Creator and Guide, let us speak now of the healing acts by which we bring you into the world, the acts of repair that make you a living presence in our lives. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done openly or anonymously, and for the act of repair we have done without personal gain. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done by seeking forgiveness, and for the act of repair we have done by forgiving others. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done through righteous giving, and for the act of repair we have done by opening our hearts. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done by comforting the mourner and visiting the sick, and for the act of repair we have done by pursuing justice and human rights, fairness, and civility. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done by making peace between one person and another, and for the act of repair we have done by protecting nature and all its creatures. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done by teaching our children the ways of peace, and for the act of repair we have done by teaching our own children the ways of Torah. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done by honoring elders and loving the stranger, and for the act of repair we have done in response to your commandment, choose life and blessing, v'al kulam. And all these bring nearer the day when you shall be one and your name shall be one.
We now pause for a prayer for healing. I invite you to call to mind anyone in need of healing of body, healing of mind, or healing of spirit.
Hear our prayer.
Page 106, Ki Anu Amecha. Page 114, please rise. We read responsively, Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lifanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu Hamol Aleinu Ve'al Olalenu V'Tapenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and on our families.
Avinu Malkeinu Kalei Dever V'Cherev V'Ra'av Me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu Kalei Kol Tsar Umastin Me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu Kotvenu B'Sefer Chaim Tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu Malei Yadenu Mibirchotecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings.
Avinu Malkeinu Harem Keren Yishichecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption.
Avinu Malkeinu Na'al Tishkvenu Rekam Meilfanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing.
Avinu Malkeinu Kabel Berachamim Uvratzon Et Tefilatenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it.
Avinu Malkeinu Aseh Imanu Lema'an Shemecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name.
Avinu Malkeinu Aseh Lema'ancha Im Lo Lema'anenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours.
Avinu Malkeinu Ein Lanu Melech Ele Ata.
Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign.
Avinu Malkeinu Petach Sha'arei Shamayim L'Tefilatenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer.
Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu Chus V'Rachem Aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice, treat us with tender compassion.
Avinu Malkeinu Chonenu Va'anenu Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim Aseh Imanu Tzedakah V'Chesed V'Hoshienu.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu v'Aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu v'Aleinu, Ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu
One night this summer, Jen and I had dinner at the nicest restaurant in Taos, New Mexico, Lambert's of Taos. Google describes it as an intimate upscale setting for contemporary American fare with a lounge and a tree-shaded patio. Not the place the frontiersmen of old would have eaten, but the perfect place for a couple of kids at camp New Yorkers looking to treat themselves to a beautiful setting and overpriced lamb chops. The restaurant was outrageously good. Perfectly mixed cocktails, excellent service, delicious amuse-bouche, one course better than the last. Partway through our meal, two couples sat at a table adjacent to ours. They seemed to be in their early to mid-70s, and from their loud conversation, we could tell that this was something of a reunion. The maitre d' brought over a complimentary bottle of wine. Apparently, the local couple were regulars. When the first course arrived, one of the women, the one who appeared to be local, led them in grace. Rather than a simple expression of gratitude, she went on for some time, and she made sure that her prayer was loud enough for everyone in the restaurant to hear it. Now, I do not begrudge anyone their religion, but it was clear that that grace was as much about virtue signaling as it was about piety. Okay, fine. A bit later, we heard the grace leader's husband say, "Yeah, I grew up on Long Island. There were Jews everywhere." Jen and I looked at each other. A family down the street, Rosenblum, I think their name was, they owned a local country club. The wife of the couple from out of town piped in. I knew a Jewish family, and they had their own private plane, and that was in the 80s. Jen and I rolled our eyes and ended our conversation to listen as the two couple played a game of one-upsmanship to show who knew the greater number of flashy, wealthy Jews. Seriously, the man said, it was like there was a Rosenblum on every corner. And they all laughed. And the lamb chops, they suddenly didn't taste so good. When we finished our meal, I walked over to their table. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need to say something," I began. "My wife and I could not help but overhear your conversation. We're Jewish." The couples suddenly looked embarrassed, the man from Long Island looking down sheepishly at his plate. I continued, "I have to say that you made us very uncomfortable this evening. You began with a loud grace professing your commitment to good values, and I just can't imagine that Jesus would have approved of the way that you spoke about Jews tonight. Perhaps you ought to try to speak and live closer to the spirit of the grace that you made sure all of us heard. You were so concerned with how many Rosenblums were in your neighborhood growing up. Do you know how that made us feel?" The woman who led the grace stammered, I'm sorry. You're right. We were wrong." Jen and I left the restaurant. We tried to make ourselves feel better by joking about the whole thing. We tried to make ourselves feel better by putting down the top of the convertible that we rented for the drive back to the hotel. We tried to make ourselves feel better by saying that they were just some dumb, harmless comments. But that's not the case. The comments showed an ingrained anti-Semitism. The comments showed that despite the fact that we were on a nice vacation, despite the fact that we could afford to eat in the nicest restaurant in Taos, despite the fact that we looked like everyone else at that restaurant with nice clothes and a good tan and pretty jewelry, despite all of it, they think of us as different, as strangers in their land, as other. Anti-Semitism does not impact me daily because I can pass. Despite the fact that I'm so Jewish I'm a rabbi, I can walk into any room, any club, any stadium, any store, any interaction with law enforcement, any situation, and I look like a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, like someone who may well have had an ancestor who sailed over on the Mayflower. My nose is a bit pronounced, but my eyes are as blue as the Caribbean, and my hair is a light shade of brown. Perhaps not the Scandinavian ideal, but certainly not a Jew. And so people tend to show me deference. Bellhops open doors for me, and TSA agents barely glance at my driver's license. Maitre d's try to find me a table. Random people I meet treat me as a person of privilege and power, a person of whom nothing untoward could be suspected, a person who should be trusted and befriended and shown a sort of deference. And Taos reminded me that I am treated that way because I can pass. The nice-looking couple at Lambert's of Taos reminded me that if people knew I was Jewish, they might change their conversation. They would assume that I was wealthy, that I owned country clubs. If people knew I was Jewish, they would factor that into their calculations when considering where to move. Is there a goldsmith on every block? What about a Rosenblum? What is the proper density of goldsmiths and Rosenblums to determine the desirability of a neighborhood? The day after our dinner at Lambert's, we took a lazy boat trip down the Rio Grande. We each had our own kayak, and besides a few little Class 2 rapids, it was a relaxing float down a gorgeous section of river. The guide told us about the natural history of the deep Rio Grande Canyon that runs through the desert plain west of Taos. He told us about the history of the indigenous peoples who lived in the area for millennia before white people came. And he told us about the wars fought between Mexicans, Navajos, Apache, and white men pursuing their dreams of manifest destiny, their dreams of a land controlled completely by white people from sea to shining sea. Seeing offshoot canyons where native people hid from white men got me thinking. I'd always thought of myself as part of the we that conquered the West. I never reflected too deeply on what that meant, what moral implications that might have. I just felt, I still feel, unconsciously and completely American. But looking at that canyon and hearing the words from the night before echo in my brain, I realized that in the minds of many Americans, we, Jews, are other. Perhaps not as other as the once great Navajo nation, but still not the white Christian ideal that propelled manifest destiny. To be clear, Jews are not other when it comes to the ideals of this great country. No one is. Ideally, this country has no other. Ideally, we are a great potpourri of peoples and languages, ethnicities, and ideas who come together to form the greatest democracy this world has ever seen. Together with people, white, black, Asian, Indian, Middle Eastern, people who are Christian, Muslim, atheist, Hindu, and Buddhist, together with every kind of person, we build this country, defend this country, work for the future of this country, create opportunities in this country. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. That is the ideal. An ideal that I believe in and work towards and hope for and preach about. But sitting at the edge of that canyon and thinking about the effort to get rid of native people and seeking the right density of Rosenblums made me realize, really feel, that there is so much more to do to achieve that ideal. The work is not only about Jews, not only about anti-Semitism. The work we need to do to reach the American ideal is about every person who can be othered. Every person who needs to pass or wants to pass or cannot pass. For every person who is not part of the manifest destiny vision that powered white men across the plains and caused the native people to hide in offshoot canyons of the Rio Grande. When our grandparents or great-grandparents came to America, they were other. When they first arrived in Lower East Side tenements or Washington Heights apartments, they were clearly new immigrants with the accents, working the menial jobs to help their children through school and on to a better life. It is an up-by-the-bootstraps story that inspires us, that rightly makes us feel proud of our families and their accomplishments. Yet the story we tell ourselves is missing a piece. The story we tell ourselves leaves out the underside of America that gave us a boost, that allowed many of our families to succeed in ways others cannot. Somewhere early in our family's time in America, those of us of European descent went from being other to passing as white. As Isabel Wilkerson writes in her powerful book, Caste, oppressed people from around the world, particularly from Europe, passed through Ellis Island, shed their old selves, and often their old names, to gain admittance to the powerful dominant majority. They went from being Czech or Hungarian or Polish to white, a political designation that only has meaning when set against something not white. It was in becoming American that they became white. The Jews of Europe were not white. White was not a thing in Europe. Those of us from Europe, we were Jews. We were as other as black people in America or untouchables in India. When we came to America in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, we understandably sought every way to advance, and that meant becoming white, what we euphemistically call becoming American. We lost our accent, we learned to play baseball, we started our own country clubs and law firms and investment houses. We maxed out the quotas at universities, which allowed us to form the friendships and social connections that we needed. And by passing or actual acceptance, we entered the powerful dominant category of white American. We do not have a generations-long connection to other white people by culture or language or faith or national origin, but solely on the basis of what we look like. Those of us whose families hail from Europe increased the size of the white majority in America, and we were ultimately rewarded with all of the benefits of being white, something that we simply had not been before we arrived here. I benefit in incredible ways from the racism of this country. I benefit in ways explicit and implicit, financially and academically. I benefit from the opportunities available to me as a white man and from the barriers of suspicion and bias that I need not face because I can pass. But sitting at that table in Taos, I recognized a paradox. As much as I benefit, I am also other. As comfortable as I am in my day-to-day life, I am other from the American mainstream, considered different. I can pass, but I am other. Both are true. I benefit from being white, and I am other. And this is a real tension. On the one hand, it is tempting to simply say, I never held slaves, I never shot a Native American, I never discriminated against Chinese railway workers. My ancestors did not either. I did not create the systems that oppressed non-whites, and certainly I am not racist myself. Therefore, as sympathetic as I am, I have no responsibility for racism. And on the other hand, I clearly benefit from being white. As Wilkerson writes, what has gone before us grants us advantages or burdens through no effort or fault of our own, gains or deficits that others who do not look like us often do not share. Should those of us who pass as white accept those benefits without considering the burdens they place on others? Should those of us who do not pass, those of us who are proud Jews of color or non-Jews of color who are part of Jewish families, should they have to bear burdens without the support and understanding of the rest of the Jewish community? I think not. And so we have a moral obligation to dismantle the role of race in the system that gives many of us so many privileges. Genesis makes clear this moral obligation when it teaches that every person is created in the image of God. According to the Talmud, this means we provide for the Gentiles poor with the Jewish poor, we visit the Gentiles sick with the Jewish sick, we bury the Gentiles dead with the Jewish dead for the sake of peace. Certainly, we have the moral imagination to add, we fight discrimination against Gentiles with discrimination against Jews, or put plainly, we fight racism and anti-Semitism. And what does that mean? It means working to reform the discriminatory parts of society that nevertheless benefit us. It means having the humility to believe the truths of others as we would want them to believe our truths. We have a moral obligation to do it because all humans, no matter their skin color, are created in the image of God. And if that is not enough, we should do it because, as Jen and I heard at Lambert's of Taos, we Jews are still other, no matter the color of our skin. I wish I could go back. I wish I could go back to those couples from Lambert's of Taos. I wish that instead of saying something and walking out, I wish I could pull up a chair to their table, pour myself a glass of their complimentary wine, and tell them that I'm Jewish. Tell them that as a Jew, I want to talk about what I heard them saying. Yes, I want to talk about the anti-Semitism behind their remarks, but I also want to know where their families came from. Were they descendants of Irish or Italian immigrants who were persecuted as other when they arrived in the U.S. before they became white? Did their families come on the Mayflower to avoid being othered by the Church of England? I wish that we could sit around that table and talk about the fact that whiteness is a made-up construct, that when you go back far enough, all of us have suffered discrimination. And then I'd want to make an agreement with them. I'd want us to agree that we will be a part of the generation that will end the racist systems in America that make it okay to talk disparagingly about Jews in a restaurant. I'd want us to imagine and figure out how to work for an America where no one gets ahead or falls behind because of the color of their skin, religion, ethnicity, sex, gender identity, sexuality, or any of the categories which we have used to force some down and allow others to rise. I actually believe that that woman is characterized more by the spirit of the grace that she offered than the conversation that followed. And I believe that all of us, all Americans, can reinvent our nation to truly live out its motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Page 116, we rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 119. May the time not be distant, our God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when lies and bigotry shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. So may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your dominion be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. V'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz, bayom hahu, yihyeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. And it has been said, Adonai shall reign over all the earth. On that day, Adonai shall be one, and God's name shall be one. Page 121. This holy night concludes with memory. Our last thoughts always are of those we have lost. We miss them especially tonight, yearning for their presence at our side. The service we have shared once was theirs. They spoke and sang the ancient words. They prayed, repented, and yearned for better lives as we have done. Flawed in their deeds, imperfect in their faith, they still drew strength from their tradition as we seek fortitude in ours. What was good and beautiful in their lives once gave us joy and now inspires us to reach higher. The knowledge that they loved us deeply brings comfort to our hearts. So we light candles of remembrance and gratitude, and we speak this timeless truth, Zichronam livracha. Their memory is a blessing, now and forever. We pray that their goodness will live on in our lives, planting seeds of kindness and hope for generations to come. Page 122, Mourner's Kaddish. Please rise. Yitzgadal v'yitzkadash shemei rabbah, ba'alma divarach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'zman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lomei olmaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yithalal, shemei d'kudsha b'richu, le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amiran b'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated. few announcements. You should have received last week our Jewish Journeys catalog for this year. Each of the programs in it will give you a chance to dig into your Jewish identity and also to explore the miracle that is the modern state of Israel. Please look through it and mark down some dates. We've got a lot of great programming coming up this year. This year's Beit Midrash program, which begins in just a couple weeks, will also have a focus on Israel and our relationship with Israel over the last 100 years or so-ish. The sessions are on Saturday and on Sunday. Please keep an eye out in Emanu-El or check the Jewish Journeys catalog. Religious School starts Sunday, the 19th. Thank you to our Director of Education, Naomi Fabes, and our incredible staff, and all of our madrachim and our faculty for making it possible. It's going to be really wonderful to have kids back in this building learning. While it seems a long time from now, I want you to mark down Friday, November 19th, when Rabbi Or and Felice Zohar will lead worship for our Cantor Earl Rogers Memorial Sabbath. These are pioneering voices in contemporary Israeli worship, and they are going to lead a straight out of Israel musical Shabbat service. This is not to be missed. Tomorrow morning, our service begins at 10 a.m. in the sanctuary and online, and we will continue throughout the day with family and youth services, the afternoon Torah service, our healing service when you may approach the Ark to offer a private prayer, Yizkor and Ne'ilah. The whole schedule is printed on your tickets. Speaking of Ne'ilah, come. Yizkor is so sad and heart-wrenching, and Ne'ilah lifts us up from the spiritual depths of Yizkor and brings us to that promise of hope and redemption that this day is all about. I hope to see you at Ne'ilah, and I hope to see you throughout the year at our wonderful programs. We will close tonight with Adon Olam, page 126, verses 1, 2, and the final verse. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's light shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence be with you and grant you peace.
Ruach Elohim, may God's Spirit be with you. Ruach Elohim, keep you safe from harm. May the love of God be your shelter from every storm. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha
Gemar Chatima Tova, may you be sealed for goodness in the book of life. Have an easy fast.